Does Brennan Johnson have a long-term future under Thomas Frank at Tottenham? There are 16 players missing from the combined squads of Tottenham and Chelsea this weekend. And could Spurs make a move for another West Ham star? Here are your daily Tottenham news headlines. Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name's Craig and here are your daily Tottenham news headlines where I'll be going through all the latest news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube and are not already as yet subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. Like, share and comment below. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Okay, let's get into it. TBR Football spoke exclusively to Graham Bailey, who told them there is still a chance for Brennan Johnson to keep his place at Spurs, despite the club looking at alternative options amid fan criticism. Bailey said Brennan Johnson is determined that he has a future at Spurs and can convince Thomas Frank that he can be a key player for him. We understand that Frank likes Johnson and believes he is capable of playing at a high level, but consistency is a worry. Like with the whole Spurs squad, Frank is getting to grips with how he sees it going forward, what work needs to be done. The fact that Spurs are still in the market for another wide player may be an indication that Johnson still has work to do to convince Frank that he has a long-term future. This is not the first time Brennan Johnson has annoyed fans with his mistakes in games, but with 2 months to go until the January transfer window, it does sound like the 24-year-old does need to improve if he is to remain part of Frank's plans. In the summer, Spurs wanted Ademola Lookman, who would no doubt be a replacement for Johnson. Tottenham have been linked with Antoine Semenyo too, but the chances of him leaving Bournemouth in January are slim. The Mirror report that 16 players are missing from Tottenham versus Chelsea at the weekend, with Thomas Frank and Endo Maresca suffering major injury blows. The report goes on to say that Tottenham Hotspur and Chelsea will both be without a number of players when they meet at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in the Premier League on Saturday in the top-flight London derby. Former Brentford boss Frank could be without 11 first-team stars for the Chelsea clash. Archie Gray has become the latest to join the injury list after sustaining a calf problem. The youngster joins an extensive treatment room containing Destiny Udogie, Ben Davies, Radu Dragushin, Kota Takai, Yves Bissouma, Dejan Kulusevski, James Maddison and Dominic Solanke. However, Frank confirmed that Guillermo Vicario should return between the sticks against Chelsea after sitting out the Newcastle defeat. The Italian's absence was initially thought to be due to a tactical rotation. Unfortunately for Spurs, Wilson Odobert is also a doubt for the match after picking up a side strain recently. On the Frenchman, Frank said Odobert had a side strain. Unfortunately, that kept him out of this game. Also, we need to assess him, but it could look positive for Chelsea. There also remains lingering doubts about the fitness of club captain and defensive warrior Christian Romero, who has not featured in the Premier League since the 2-1 away victory over Leeds United at the start of the month. Maresca's injury isn't quite as extensive as Tottenham's, which will come as a relief to Chelsea supporters. However, he was left furious by Delap's unnecessary red card against Wolves midweek. Delap had been sidelined for several weeks before coming off the bench for his return to action at Molineux, but the summer acquisition saw red following 2 reckless yellow cards, the second of which could have warranted a straight dismissal on its own, in a substitute appearance branded embarrassing by Maresca. Despite occurring in the League Cup, Delap will serve a suspension for the away fixture at Spurs. It represents a massive setback, with the Italian also missing Cole Palmer in attack. At the back, his choices are equally limited, with Benoit Badiashile and Levi Colwell both recovering from long-term knocks. Midfield prodigy Dario Asugo remains on the injury list, while Mikhailo Mudryk is still provisionally suspended after being charged by the Football Association mid-June with anti-doping rule violations. And Hammers News is stating that the West Ham board have responded to fresh claims linking Jarrod Bowen with a shock move to bitter rivals Tottenham Hotspur amid the club's desperate situation on the pitch. West Ham are set to announce record losses exceeding £100 million in their December accounts. Tottenham Hotspur, meanwhile, have added the same amount to their income just by qualifying for the Champions League this season. Spurs have already embarrassed West Ham by taking advantage of the club's delicate PSR situation by signing Mohamed Kudus for just £54 million in the summer. Most West Ham fans accepted Kudus had to be sold to raise funds for signings, but for the Irons to sell a top player to Tottenham just 2 years after selling Declan Rice to Arsenal did not go down well at all in East London, especially as West Ham fans now have to watch Kudus shining in Thomas Frank's side. Kudus is not the only West Ham player Tottenham have been linked with in recent seasons, though. They say there's no smoke without fire, and Tottenham Hotspur are once again being linked with a fresh swoop for beloved Hammers captain and talisman Jarrod Bowen. Now, a new report has claimed Hammers skipper Bowen could be tempted by Spurs in a hugely concerning development. According to a notorious Spanish football site, the North London club are reported to be preparing a serious attempt to sign Bowen in the January transfer window. The latest claims suggest that Tottenham will try to take advantage of West Ham's desperate financial situation, as stated, and the fact they could be relegation certainties by January with a bid in the region of just £60 million. The news from Spain has been repeated by several sources in England. The new report has also claimed that Bowen could be tempted by Spurs, given he's settled in Essex, having purchased a £3 million pad with wife Danny Dyer last summer. Now the West Ham board have responded to a worrying claim Bowen could join Spurs by making the club's stance on the matter perfectly clear. However, Bowen signed a 7-year contract extension in 2023. Hammers News exclusively revealed earlier this month that West Ham also have the option of an 8th year on Bowen's deal. Tottenham have been linked on a number of occasions in the past, including the last two summer windows. Previously, majority owner David Sullivan signalled unwavering intent to keep Bowen, stating he's not for sale, while slapping a staggering £150 million price tag on the forward to deter suitors. But with the club now facing extreme turbulence on and off the pitch, the new claims are understandably disturbing. One of the biggest worries surrounding West Ham's possible relegation concerns Bowen. Bowen has always been West Ham's untouchable one, but the feeling is it may change in the light of West Ham's predicament on the pitch and off the pitch on their balance sheet. Spurs' interest in Kudus seemed far-fetched in the summer, but they managed to get the deal done, hence legitimate concern among fans that Bowen might be next. Okay, so here's my thoughts on those stories today. Firstly, about Brennan Johnson. Brennan Johnson, obviously our top scorer last season, got the important goal in the Europa League final. It's so easy to become, you get attached to players because they do something for your club. Brennan Johnson undoubtedly has an instinct for finishing. Not this season, he hasn't been really given tons of opportunities, but obviously Frank hasn't seen much from the player in training. He said that before, players have got to perform in training for him to look at them and put them in match day squads, or certainly the starting 11. And Johnson's starts and opportunities under Frank have not been what they were last season under Ange Postecoglou. I know Brennan Johnson can be frustrating at times. Is he good enough for Tottenham, I suppose, is the correct answer. I still think there's a player in there. I know he frustrates fans. Absolutely, I get that. And he's definitely got to do better when he was given opportunities, like in the week against Newcastle. He did put a few good balls into the box, however, I thought, actually, and it was just Richarlison's lack of instinct that the fact we didn't score a couple of times. Brennan Johnson can look like he's not doing his defensive responsibilities sometimes, and almost I've seen fans describe him as lazy on occasion. I think you can get away with it if you're an absolutely fantastic player like Messi. If Messi wasn't Messi, anybody else, he would get absolutely hammered for being lazy, essentially. But standing still was Lionel Messi. He's made a career of that and just finding that space. And let's face it, he's Lionel Messi. He can pretty much do what he wants. Brennan Johnson isn't. So I just want to see more from Brennan Johnson. If we're going to keep hold of him, I want to see more. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if by the summer, Thomas Frank's had a good look at him and doesn't fancy him, and perhaps Brennan Johnson does move on. But get down in the comments, let me know. What's your thoughts on Brennan Johnson? Chelsea up at the weekend on Saturday. 16 players missing from our combined squads. Definitely we've got the rough end of the stick there. We've got more players out, more creative players out. It still concerns me. that we rely on Kudus far, far too much. It is the situation we find ourselves in at the moment, and now Archie Gray is on that list as well. Hopefully Wilson Odebear, excuse me, his knock or strain isn't too bad, so at least we've got another attacking option there. I think the ones for me, Levi Colwill and Cole Palmer for Chelsea, they're going to be big misses for Chelsea. I think we got a chance in this game. We're at home. Home record isn't that good, let's face it, but we are at home. I think we got a good chance against Chelsea. They've been leaking goals. I know we have as well on occasion, but this is a good time to play Chelsea, in my opinion. Cole Palmer, incredibly good player. I love Cole Palmer as a player. I think he's going to be a big miss for Chelsea. He has been over the last few weeks, so we got a good chance, but those injuries are racking up again for Tottenham. We all thought that was going to be different, and it was Ange Postecoglou's training methods that were the problem. Doesn't seem that. Are we just unlucky with injuries? What's your thoughts on the injuries? Get down in the comments and let me know about that. And the final story, this one about Jarrod Bowen. I wanted Jarrod Bowen at Tottenham when he was at Hull. I mean, whether we didn't move for him strongly enough or whether they didn't want him, I don't know. Obviously now a part of the England setup. Look, he is without doubt. You could throw Paquetá in there as well, but Bowen consistently has been their best player. I think he'd do brilliantly at Tottenham. Would he come to Spurs with his father-in-law, Danny Dyer? Would he let him go? Look, if West Ham get relegated, 100% Jarrod Bowen has to leave West Ham. But do we make a move in January? I mean, there's not tons of reports on this, but there are rumours that Spurs are still interested in Bowen. Would West Ham need to sell? Their PSR position is precarious. They have losses on the balance sheet, as I stated. Fans just not turning up at games because they don't want to watch the football and can't be bothered to go. I've got a lot of friends that are West Ham fans. They're just sick of it, sick of the owners. We've all been there. Tottenham fans, we were sick of that as well, weren't we? So, not that I feel that sorry for them, but they're in they could be in a position where they need to sell players. So, would you want Jarrod Bowen at Tottenham? As I say, I would definitely take him, and a better attacking option, in my opinion, than some of the players we've already got. But get down in the comments, let me know your thoughts on all those stories today. Do you think our injuries are going to affect us against Chelsea? Do you still want Brennan Johnson at Tottenham, or do you think we should sell him? And would you take Jarrod Bowen? Get down in the comments and let me know. And as always, come on you Spurs.